There is a widespread thought that traditional media is basically losing power to bloggers and YouTubers. What do you guys think regarding that?
At the end of the day, right, if I ask you, where are you going to go for news? You might say the Journal or the New York Times. You're not going to say YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah. Rarely, right? So I still think that those big brands exist. They'll still exist. And of course, there's going to be room for the stars of YouTube to come up or bloggers to come up, but it'll be very niche-y, right? So I think that at the end of the day, a lot of the guys that are in this room, they're going to want to eventually be, read on Reuters or appear on in Fortune, because it just lends a certain level of credibility to their project or to their ideas and to their, their knowledge of their industry.
YouTubers can put out content fast, and in the ever-changing world of crypto, that's important. Then yes, there is that aspect that a lot of it could be paid for content, and you never know how well thoroughly checked it is. Did he really do the due diligence before talking about that project, or did he just pocket that BTC?
The reason why I started a printed newspaper on fintech was basically to give the credibility to the whole sector. It's almost when you put it in the old school media with a lot of proper investigative, in-depth journalism. This makes a massive difference to how the content is read and how it is perceived.
What we need to be working towards is a partnership between traditional media and our underground sources, where there's the credible reporting and standards of traditional media, but there's also the understanding of the tech, the understanding of developers, the understanding of problems with reaching consensus on different types of platforms. And I don't see that happening enough on traditional media, but I think it's coming.
The question is how to get this media attention. Can you maybe shed a light on that and give your insights, given your personal experience? What does it make to get into Forbes or Fintech Times or the Merkle?
These magazines and these newspapers and the wires, they're not going to write about your project. No one's going to come in here and say, let me write about, pick any LATOKEN and how great LATOKEN is and write about it for Bloomberg. It's not going to happen. So what you got to do is you have to position yourself as you got to think of yourself beyond just your company and think of yourself as what is the sector that you are in. So LATOKEN is in the exchange business. So if I'm doing a story on exchanges, I want to think LATOKEN, I'm going to talk to them and I'm going to get someone from LATOKEN, the CEO, to comment on why are exchanges so slow? Why aren't exchanges doing this? How come exchanges are so terrible? How come exchanges are so good? What's good? What's bad? So they're going to be part of that story. So it's not a story about LATOKEN, but the people from LATOKEN are quoted. So everyone here has heard about Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. They're mentioned every day on Reuters, they're mentioned every day in the New York Times, but no one there is writing about JP Morgan. The story's not about JP Morgan, the story's not about Goldman Sachs, the story's not about Jeff Bezos, but he's there every day.
Looking at exchanges and looking at decentralized exchanges or DEXs, right, there's a huge problem with liquidity. So if your project is actually solving the liquidity problem, that's something that we would want to cover. If your project is just another DEX and it's not doing something special, there's already a bunch of those out there. So you have to actually prove that your project is doing something positive for the world.
Your project is bullshit until you prove it otherwise. And we have analysts that do that.
When you go into a conference and somebody walks up to you and they start to pitch you their ICO or their project, and I'm like, okay, let me see, can you show me your software? We don't have any software yet, but we have this token that we want to issue you. This isn't something that's a good thing or looks good on our community. All this does is invite more bureaucrats and kleptocrats to come in and try to regulate our industry, whereas I think we need more self-governance. We need to figure out a way to put this ICO problem in check by our own mechanisms with our own will and our own volition. That's the only way to pave a path forward and to get more people involved in this ecosystem and to share in our passion for changing the world and shifting the dominant paradigm. That's what's important.
Being interesting. It's everybody trying to sell things to each other all the time. Nobody needs that. So being interesting is being able to talk about something which is not you, which is not your company, being able to comment on important issues and things, having opinions on certain things, and generally being the kind of person people want to go for a glass of wine with. That helps enormously, enormously.
This is what being a human is all about. It's all about the bonding process, having attachment. And that's a way that you can really come to understand another person. In reality, when we try to make a connection with each other, what we're exercising is a need for something. As human beings, we have needs. And in order to meet those needs, we have to be willing to listen. If you're not a good listener, you're not going to become a good influencer.
The story that's going to go viral is going to be more of a story that has a title similar to what you're putting into a Google search. A controversial headline is always going to be something that gets a lot of attention, right, and draws a lot of people in. But that doesn't necessarily mean that a controversial headline and a clickbait type piece is actually a good story. There's definitely a difference there. I think it's our responsibility as journalists to find ways to make sure that we're putting important information into concise terms so that people can get that information quickly. We're all so busy in our lives. It's so important that we think about the people who are reading the stories, and all of the empathy that we've talked about for businesses coming up to us and talking about their projects, all of the humanity that needs to come with that. There also should be humanity and empathy coming from the side of writers, thinking about you guys. You don't want to spend an hour reading an article that's just completely boring and doesn't get to the point or winds around. You want an article that you can quickly read through in less than 20 minutes, and you can take away ideas and know more about the space than you did before. You can make a decision on what hardware wallet to buy. You can make a decision on whether you want to invest in a project or not. That's the type of writing that makes a good story.